So for today, I don't have anything particular that I want to talk about. Instead, I think what I want to do is actually use the podcast to talk more specifically about my experiences with metaphysics and kind of how that's helped me as a neurodivergent person. So that's what today's episode is going to be about. So with that, welcome to this week's episode of Divergence and Divine. My name is WIllspiration. And I just kind of want to talk about how metaphysics has really helped me understand myself not just as a neurodivergent person, but has actually helped me navigate the world as a neurodivergent person. So I know that I've talked about this quite a bit, but I kind of figured maybe I'll just put this all together into one podcast episode. But for me, I think my life kind of really turned around when I started discovering metaphysics, or some people call it spiritualism. I like to separate the two because spiritualism is kind of like, at least to me, is like its own sort of religion rather than it being kind of like a concept, whereas metaphysics is an actual concept that kind of is typically tied to spiritualism, but is actually kind of its own standalone thing. And it doesn't really have any tie-ins. Like, it's tied into a lot of different other sub-things, like witchcraft, or like I said just a few seconds ago, spiritualism. But the core concept of metaphysics in and of itself kind of applies to everything religious and kind of just otherworldly in general. So it's again kind of it's its own thing, but a lot of other things outside of your typical religions tend to rely heavily on metaphysics. And quite frankly, it's my belief that even in religions like Christianity, that metaphysics were a thing. There is a book specifically in the Bible that was known as the Book of Enoch that was actually removed because it actually talked about metaphysics. So my belief on that is that the reason why a lot of the apostles were able to connect to God and talk to the angels and all that stuff is because of the fact that they knew about metaphysics, and metaphysics is what allowed them to connect to that spiritual plane. You remove that from the Bible, all of a sudden people don't know what it is, nor can they actually connect to, the other realms the way, people that actually know about metaphysics can. Because it's also my belief that we all have that ability. So if we don't know how to use it, we can't really use it. Most people that know about metaphysics kind of just stumble upon it by accident when they have a lot of just weird, metaphysical kind of, paranormal stuff happen to them. It's like, oh, that's weird. But it's actually that's just kind of proof that you are inclined to metaphysics. So for me, I'm very good at energy work, and I'm very good at sensing out people's energies. So I can kind of tell what's going on with somebody. I may not know what they're feeling, but at least I know what their heart is feeling. So I kind of have an idea of what's going on. So if someone feels off, it usually kind of tells me that something's going on with them. There's been times where I've been around people that have just made me feel extremely uncomfortable. And usually it's because these people are either very egotistical, or they have some sort of hidden agenda, or they're just bad people in general. And typically that is my body kind of entering that flight or fight response around somebody. When I sense out their energy, usually tells me that this person is not a good person. Stay away from them as much as you can. So that's actually really helped me a lot. And I think that the biggest thing is that a lot of people deny metaphysics because it's not been proven by science. Which, funny enough, the more these metaphysical and paranormal experiences are happening, and the more science is starting to actually look at these and being like, well, there's got to be a scientific explanation, the more they're starting to realize, oh, hey, it's actually just a normal human thing. Like, we all have these metaphysical abilities that we don't know about. And, yeah, there's still people that are laughing and saying that, if science starts giving into metaphysics, then like all hope for humanity is lost because it's something that you can't prove because it's not tangible. But the concept has always been that if humans have souls, and our souls are a form of cosmic or ethereal spiritual energy, then it's our spirit that gives our body life, because as we know, the body gets its signals from the brain. The brain uses electricity. Electricity is typically a form of energy, but where would that energy come from if not powered by some sort of energy source, which would be your spirit, right? Your soul. And then that sits in your brain and powers up your brain. So when your time comes for you to pass on to the afterlife and your soul leaves your body, now your brain doesn't have that energy to power the electricity and needs to send signals to the brain, or like from the brain to the body. So now your body doesn't have that signal it needs, and then it just, it just poof, your body just, your soul leaves your body and your body just stops working because it doesn't have energy. It's basically like if you were to just pull the plug on a PC tower while it's running, or if the power goes off while a PC tower is running, obviously it's going to turn off because it doesn't have power. Same thing. When our bodies finally start to fail us and our spirits decide it's time, then we leave our bodies behind, and then our bodies just kind of, being organic, just decompose naturally, and we become part of the earth again. So a lot of us, if not all of us, have these metaphysical abilities. Most of us don't even know it. And most of us think that it's a whole load of, bullshit, even though it's not. And then you got religious people that are like, oh, metaphysics is, occultish. It goes against the word of God, blah, 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 blah. It's evil. But in reality, when you actually stop to look at metaphysics and you see what the concepts are of metaphysics, then you kind of understand that there's nothing bad about it. It's learning how to read energies and how to understand more of connecting to the spiritual world in a good way, which, if you really wanted to, you could learn how to do that in a negative way. But if you learn from the right people and you learn how to do it safely, you only tap into the good of the universe. Because again, there is both good and bad even in the spiritual world. So you learn how to tap into the good, and it really does kind of help you out in terms of your growth. Because I've said it many times before, but I learned this from somebody, that if you want to think about it in a way that makes sense, we humans have 4 different bodies. We have our physical body, our mental body, our emotional body, and our spiritual body. Okay, so how do we take care of those? Well, you take care of your physical body by eating right, getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, working out, and making sure that your body's basically in tip-top shape. Okay, that one was easy. What about mental? When it comes to mental, this is where things like therapy come in. This is also where metaphysics can actually help with your mentality. So you always want to be able to stay grounded, calm, patient, understanding. You always want to be in that state of calm and groundedness. And it's always learning how to challenge your mind of when you feel like you're kind of spiraling into like this negative thought process, like always trying to find a way to ground yourself, whether it be showing gratitude for everything that's happened, including the bad things, whether it's just doing something that you like that kind of helps get you out of that rut of, oh, okay, I'm kind of feeling like things aren't going my way, but I'm just going to distract myself with something that I like, help ground myself, and then I'll figure out a solution. I mean, really and truly, overall, I think it helps in a lot of different ways, because it also helps teach you about your ego, that not to be egotistical because you're good at something. And I feel like that's something that a lot of humanity struggles nowadays is ego. Content creators blow up and they become more egotistical. People that move up the corporate ladder kind of quick become more egotistical because they're like, oh, look at me, I moved up so quick. People that are just kind of handed things to them are egotistical because they're like, well, I can just get this whenever I want because I have money. So it kind of really helps ground you and get you out of your ego and makes you realize that your life situations, or like the way your brain works, doesn't make you any better or any worse than somebody else, because we're all human, neurodivergent or not. So we are all the same in that aspect, even if our brains are wired differently, and even if we are individually unique humans, we are still humans at the end of the day. And I think that really, for me, I feel like that kind of helped me a lot with my mental state, where I'm not so ashamed of being neurodivergent anymore. And I think that's also a very, very good thing. And then the next body we have to talk about is the emotional body. So again, this is where therapy comes into play, and really and truly, it's arguable whether, the emotional and mental body could count as one body, because obviously your mentality also kind of determines your emotional state for the most part. And that's why it's like, oh, okay, well, mental and emotional could be the same body. I mean, without mentality, you don't really have emotions in a sense. But there's also the aspect of, it's more so learning how to control your emotions is basically what that is entailing. Is, if you're getting angry, how do you show your anger without being an asshole? Like, how do you show your anger without yelling, screaming, or throwing things, or threatening people? Like, how do you show that you're angry, but still be able to ground yourself where you can feel your anger, but not let it get the better of you? That's more what the emotional body is talking about, is how to stay grounded in your emotions. How to let yourself feel those emotions without letting them spiral out of control, which is especially difficult when you're neurodivergent and you have emotional dysregulation, because again, dysregulation means that you have a harder time controlling your emotions. So for me, again, metaphysics really kind of helped me with grounding myself during my emotional states, because it's now I'm not sitting there like, if I get angry or frustrated, it's not me basically throwing a fit right away. I'm not going to sit there and start yelling and being like, what the fuck is this bullshit? And it's not fair and blah, 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 blah. And, just basically cursing the whole world because one little thing went wrong. Now it's just, all right, I still think that this is bullshit, but I guess I can kind of see the reasoning, but I still think that there's more nuance that is not being looked at here. And I think that we should be looking at those nuances. So there's a difference between example one that I gave, where, it's just me going off and expressing my anger in full, like full display, I guess. And then the second example where it's like, expressing my anger, but still being calm about it without, you know, the yelling and, the urge to throw something. And don't get me wrong, there is still times where I might, yell because, you with the emotional dysregulation, you're not guaranteed to be able to do that. But even still, even if I do yell a little bit, it's still not like where it was before. Just like with, my RSD, I'm no longer like, it's no longer like if my RSD gets triggered, I just spiral into a depressive state anymore. I spiral into a depressive state, sure, but mostly for like half a day at most. And then I wake up the next day and then I look at it from a different lens and I go, no, that was just my RSD being stupid. Everything is literally fine. I'm pretty sure I would know if something was wrong or if this person had a problem with me, they would tell me. So there's really no reason for me to be freaking out. And then that also teaches you that other people have emotions, that other people are going through different things. So you got to also hold a spot in your mind and in your heart that, people are going through other things too. And that you just got to have patience with them. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, well, this person's being like this because they're an asshole. No, this person is literally stressed out because they may have A, B, C, and D going on outside of life, like at home, and then at work, they're just there and they're already at that limit as it is. So when someone does something stupid at work, it triggers them because they're already at that breaking point. So is it wrong? Yes. Should people be more mindful even when they're that stressed out? Yes. But when you're also that stressed out and you don't ground yourself, you kind of don't understand that, if that makes sense. So that's, again, what has helped me a lot with my emotional dysregulation as a neurodivergent person. And finally, we have the spiritual body, right? So the spiritual body is basically your spirit. So how do you basically train your spiritual body? And that's where metaphysics comes in. So this is doing things like Reiki, meditating. If you believe in crystal healing, using, crystals to meditate and do healing, things like rituals and even crystal bathing, like with crystal baths, to help cleanse your energy, things like that. And when you do things like that, you're taking care of your spiritual body and you're also working on tapping into those metaphysical abilities that every human does have, because every human has that ability to, sense energy and be able to kind of read where a person is energetically, which kind of gives them a rough range of where someone is emotionally and mentally. So it's like, oh, okay, I kind of have an idea of where this person might be sitting. So you kind of are able to navigate around that. And that in turn also makes you somebody that is very emotionally stable, reliable. And then people just kind of go, well, how do I do that? And don't get me wrong, there are going to be people that are going to sit there and go, well, I don't know how to get to that level. So instead, I'm going to bring that person down to my level by using them. And this is what we like to call an energy vampire. So somebody that doesn't want to put in the work or understand how to get to that level is going to feed and siphon off of your positive energy and take advantage of you. So that's another great way to kind of spot an energy vampire too, is like when somebody keeps coming to you for something all the time, like every single time, like they have something to complain about and, you give them recommendations on how to go about it, but they don't listen to it. and they just keep coming back for the same thing or even a new thing multiple times in a row. That is what we call an energy vampire. And the thing about energy vampires is that most of the time people do it unintentionally. Like, you don't realize that there is an exchange of energy going on. And then there is a small section of, people that are energy vampires. They know they are, and they do it on purpose because they don't actually want to do the work. But most times it's unintentional, and learning how to sense people's energies is also a great way how to spot an energy vampire, because then it really kind of goes hand in hand with keeping all of your bodies balanced and working on your metaphysical skills. Because now you go, oh, okay, well, not only is this person, keep bringing this thing up over and over again, but for whatever reason, I get a small hint of happiness every time, I keep sitting here giving them, advice and listening to them. And not a good kind of happy, like a sly, cunning kind of happy, like this weird, like, how do I put this? It's like basically a bad person being happy because something that they did was successful, kind of happy. Like I was going to say negative kind of happy, but it's kind of hard to say it because the emotion is still happiness, but it's happiness for the wrong reason, because they're building off of your hard work by stealing your energy so that they can kind of essentially bring you down to that level, right? And then this is where, again, crystals kind of come in, because crystals are believed to have, different metaphysical properties like humans do. And a lot of crystals have some sort of protection against, having your energy, leached off by a energy vampire, protecting you from being having your energy leached off by an energetic vampire. So it's like that way, when people that intentionally target you to try to, weaken you and your mindset and your body so that you're on their level, so that they can feel better about themselves. Like, yeah, that person used to be happy, but now I took their energy. I did that. They're no longer better than anyone else. They're the same as everyone else. And I did that. So you're welcome, everybody. Now it's like, no, you're not going to do that. And then eventually you can get to that point where, through Reiki or just meditating in general, you are able to learn how to shield yourself without the use of crystals. Do I still recommend crystals? Yes. But again, not everyone believes in crystal healing, so that's completely up to you. There are other ways to protect yourself without using crystals if you don't believe in crystal healing, which is fine. Everybody has their own beliefs, because, again, the core of metaphysics is still like meditation and kind of just learning how to tap into those abilities that you do have. And not everyone has the same abilities. Like, not everyone is purely clairvoyant. Some people are, Some people are clairaudient, where instead of seeing a full vision, all they hear is just the audio of the vision. So like, they hear a conversation and they don't see anything. It's just hearing a conversation. Some people maybe, I don't know if there's a word for it, but it's basically like being clairvoyant, but without the audio of what they're seeing. So they're just seeing imagery, but no audio. Because clairvoyance basically is saying that you can see a vision and hear the audio that goes with it. But, and then there's omniscient, I think, where like the best way to describe it is, at least to me, the only way to hit that state would be like if you're sleeping, where you have like a sense, like a dream that feels like it's very real. Oftentimes, this is how a lot of people experience deja vu, is through dreams. So then when something like that happens in real life and you go, I'm getting the weirdest sense of deja vu. Well, that's why, because you had like a clear sentient premonition of something that's going to happen in the future. And this has happened to me several times. And then in that moment, I stop and I go, why do I feel like I've lived this moment before? And then usually after a couple minutes, my brain goes, oh yeah, that's right. I had a dream about this moment like a couple weeks ago, or like a couple days ago, or a couple months ago. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One was my U.S. Government midterm test that I took junior year of high school. And I had a dream about being like the third one done with the test, having it graded, and then getting, I think it was an 82 on the test. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's not bad. But I remember all the answers that I circled, and I remember handing it in to my teacher. And then he was like, you're done already? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're literally the third person to get done, and we're not even halfway through class yet. And then I get the test back, and it's like it was either a C plus or a B minus. But I think it was I think it was a B minus. I think it was like in the upper 80s. I think it was like 86 or something. But my high school did it where anything below a 70 was failing. So B's and C's were a little bit of a tighter squeeze to get, because generally the rule was 76 to 70 was the D range, and then 70 to 85, I believe, was the C range, and then 86 to 91 was the B range, and then 92 to 100 was the A range. So I think I got, it was either a C plus, like I was 2% off from getting a B minus. I think I got like an 84. So I was like 2% away from getting a B minus. Or I think, no. Actually, you know what? I can't even remember what I got now, because I never really thought of that moment again after that. I'm pretty sure I either got a C plus or a B minus. And my teacher was very surprised given the fact that I got it done so quickly. So then I sit down and I start doodling in my notebook, because I passed the midterm, and I'm stuck there for like another 20 minutes while I wait for everyone else to finish their midterms. And then I just sat there, and all of a sudden I just stopped, and I'm like, why does it feel like I remember this moment? And I'm looking around, and then everybody's wearing the exact same clothes that I saw in my dream. I realized that I got the exact same score, finished at the exact same time. My teacher said the exact same thing. He was wearing the exact same clothes. Everything in the room was positioned exactly the same way it was in my dream. And then I'm like, I feel like I've lived this moment before. And then it dawned on me again. Oh, I had a dream about this. This literally played out the same way I saw it in my dream. The first time this ever happened to me was in middle school, in gym class, 7th grade, where we were in the softball unit, and somebody hit the ball pretty far. It was obviously considered a home run, but someone had to go get the ball, right? So I went to go get the ball, and I stop, and I'm like, I look out back to where the diamond is, and I'm like, why does it feel like I've lived this moment before? And then it hit me that I had a dream about this, and I go, that's weird. And then it kind of started gradually happening more and more as I got older. And then it was just kind of now where it's like, I don't really have deja vu anymore. It's just kind of more of like an intuitive thing where I kind of just have a feeling of, if I do this, I get the strangest feeling like this is not going to play out the way that it should. So now it's just kind of relying on my intuition, or what we often refer to as our gut instinct. Like, if your gut is telling you something's wrong, then chances are something's wrong. Yeah, that's your intuition. So no, I'm going to just say this, that no, intuition isn't just a woman-only thing. Men have intuition as well. It's just we men are often told that we need to be masculine and to be less emotional and to be more macho and everything. But really, we men, we have the same intuition that women do. We just don't use it because we're told that that's not manly. But in reality, if you're a man and you're neurodivergent, that intuition is going to come in handy in helping you navigate this neurotypical world. And then that again leads us back to metaphysical abilities, and then you use your energy, your ability to read energy to kind of sense what people are feeling, kind of get a ballpark of where they're at in that moment. And then you combine that with your intuition and you kind of roughly get an idea of how to handle a situation. And the best way to build your intuition is meditating, energy work, getting Reiki done, or becoming a Reiki practitioner yourself. And again, if you believe in crystal healing, maybe meditating with crystals, carrying a couple crystals around with you at all times, and just kind of learning to just literally trust your intuition. Whenever something inside of you is telling you, this isn't right, or if I do this, I feel like something bad is going to happen, that's usually your intuition telling you, don't do it. Now, if you have anxiety issues like me, where you have generalized anxiety, hypochondria, and other forms of anxiety, then it does become a little bit harder to trust your intuition, because sometimes you can't really tell if it's your intuition warning you that something's going to happen, or if it's your anxiety just telling you, like, but what if this happens? So it's something that you got to work on. If you're on anti-anxiety meds and they work for you, usually this doesn't interfere too much with your intuition. I, for one, just don't really benefit from being on anti-anxiety meds. So I just kind of I'm unmedicated. So I've basically learned how to train my brain the hard way of what is my intuition, what is my anxiety, and what is actually my intuition picking up on something bad that's actually triggering my anxiety, because it's literally that bad, where I go, oh, okay, I know this is my intuition, but I also know that there's something going on and it's not making me feel comfortable at all. And that also happened at my job before, where there was somebody that I worked with that made me feel really uncomfortable like that, where it's like, yeah, there is definitely something off about this person and I don't like it. And it's making me feel very, very uncomfortable. And when I say uncomfortable, I mean like I was starting to sweat. Like my body just knew, oh shit, this is a potentially dangerous person and I can sense it. So I need to be on my guard because I don't know if this person's actually going to do something. And eventually this person did end up getting fired. But still, it was pretty scary, but I'm kind of proud of myself that I was able to hold my own and keep myself grounded, because that really just goes to show how much keeping your four bodies, in shape and balanced actually helps. Because if it was the old me, like 2019 me, I would have been freaking out. So that really goes to show how much of an improvement metaphysics can actually make in your day-to-day life. And I still encourage people to try it out, because like I said, from my personal belief, I don't really think it actually interferes at all with religion. In fact, I feel like there's a lot of things in religion that are removed, and I feel like it was actually metaphysics, because again, how is there a book in the Bible that was removed from the Bible if supposedly in the Bible God says that nobody is allowed to tamper with the Bible? So it kind of makes you wonder, kind of question the Bible, not in the sense of like it's wrong, but like how is a book able to be removed if by the time this was translated to English, nobody had that connection to divine to be able to actually talk to God or the angels like they could in both the Old and New Testaments, right? So Not saying that that's wrong. I mean, for me personally, I believe that there is a God. I also believe that God and the universe are one and the same. So whether you're praying to God or you're just putting your manifestations out to the universe, it's basically the same thing. You can do either or. That's my belief. And everybody's entitled to their own belief, but I just think that from my personal perspective and experience that's helped me the most. So that might be something that you guys may want to look into, see if it's something that helps you. If you're just comfortable with your own beliefs, you don't have to. This is just kind of me talking about my experiences and my beliefs with metaphysics. So again, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. So if this is something that piques your curiosity, check it out. And if not, no big deal. Just another rambling from good old me. So with that, I'm going to end this week's episode of Divergence and Divine. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, hit the subscribe button, like the video, ring the notification bell, because the notification bell will let you know when I upload new episodes of the podcast. And with that, I'm going to edit this and then get this up for you guys in a bit. And then, yeah, with that, I hope everybody has a good weekend and a good start to the next week. And I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.